Next to Putin on the naughty list, Nicolas Maduro, a Venezuelan narco-terrorist. Tonight, the president is meeting with his national security team on this very matter, which comes after Trump alerted airlines, pilots, drug dealers, and human traffickers, quote, the airspace above and surrounding Venezuela to be closed in its entirety. It's about to get hot for the murderers and marauders. The White House is being tight-lipped, but according to the Miami Herald, the Trump administration gave Maduro a pretty clear ultimatum as potential land operations loom. Leave or else. Here to discuss, Foreign Affairs Committee member, Congressman Bill Huizenga. Congressman Huizenga, great to see you. This meeting
good to be with you.
With President Trump and his national security team, what at best could we expect to hear or see out of it?
Well, obviously, hopefully progress. The president had his conversation on Friday. Hopefully we've got assets on the ground that are able to tell us what kind of movement, what sort of actions are being taking place in Venezuela right now. Interestingly enough, earlier today I met with a minister, a pastor from Venezuela who has family back there and is actually in contact with Machado's team and the opposition. And everyone has a sense of something is going to happen, and very soon, just not sure what it is. And hopefully Maduro has gotten that message as well and has decided to do the right thing, which is to exit.
What signs would you be looking for that he would exit? And it's a tall order to ask somebody with ties to say, and it's all linked together to Russia and Putin and the communist regime in Cuba, for him to go quietly. But what signs are you watching for?
Yeah, I guess that's part of the thing where we're going to see, because of the wider net, whether it's the Cubans that are guarding him and others, whether it's Russia that has had submarines off the coast, whether it's a number of these other indicators, would those things stop, or would there be some sort of chatter that's happening? This is where the human intelligence is certainly as important as the signals intelligence. Getting a sense of what's going on. But I think those are the types of things that we need to be looking for. What are those indicators? I also sit on the Financial Services Committee where we do all the sanctions, for example. Is there some sort of movement happening that can be detected by Treasury or other money systems around the world where they're trying to move assets, for example? Those kinds of things would obviously be big indicators that they are thinking about, shall we say, an alternative future.
Congressman, because if you listen to the Democrats here in the United States, that they seem to be more focused on the Trump administration and the Secretary of War, and a call which the spokeswoman, Caroline Leavitt, today did comment on. President Trump and Secretary Hegseth have made it clear the presidentially designated narco-terrorist groups are subject to lethal targeting in accordance with the laws of war. With respect to the strikes in question on September 2nd, Secretary Hegseth authorized Admiral Bradley to conduct these kinetic strikes, directing the engagement to ensure the boat was destroyed, which would not be a war crime, and the threat to the U.S. was eliminated. But the Democrats seem to be more focused on, the president and his ability to effectuate national security and his agenda than Maduro and a narco-terrorist state.
Well, Dagan, we're seeing a continuation from both the first Trump administration into now basically the first 10 months, 11 months of this Trump administration, where for some folks, it doesn't matter what the action is or what the declaration is or what the stance is, they must be opposed to it. They're viscerally opposed to it. Oftentimes it's because their political base is viscerally opposed to it and to the president. And that's a terrible way of operating any kind of foreign policy, much less domestic policy. is simply a reflexive no to whatever is going on, even when it's the right thing. And so I think this is certainly a sad continuation of that on a different level now with a specific country.
To broaden it out, because if you look at the tariffs and the use of the tariffs, even under IEEPA by the president, that goes to his ability to, as I said, effectuate national security, the national security priorities and agenda of the executive branch, which Larry Kudlow has talked about endlessly. This is the similar thing, because if the Democrats, and I'll name Senator Chris Van Hollen, they scream about possible war crimes, as the New York Post has written about, hoping to invoke the War Powers Act to prevent any U.S. further action. So it's about their own power rather than fighting an enemy.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Where, obviously we've seen both the Biden administration, previous administrations, including the Obama administration, take very similar actions in various parts around the world, whether it be in Africa, whether it be in South Asia, and it's silence, right? And that, again, it kind of goes back to the first point, which is, for some, it is just a reflexive reaction to the fact that Donald J. Trump is president of the United States. Now, they got to get over it. We've had the election. We need to keep moving forward, but some of those folks aren't interested in doing that.
Congressman Bill Huizenga, great to see you, sir. Always.
Hey,
Thanks
good
for
to be
being
with you,
here.
Dagan. Thanks, appreciate it.